For the Investing News Network, I am Brian McGovern. I'm joined today by Vic Neufeld, Director of Havn Life, a new psychedelics company that just went public on the Canadian Securities Exchange. Vic, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure, Brian.
Vic, I should note you also had a very big role in the cannabis industry as the former CEO of Aphria, one of the big Canadian LPs. Why don't we start there and tell me, what do you think the time you spent in cannabis will show, or how does that impact the way that you now enter into the psychedelics arena?
Well, perhaps go back a step earlier in my career, 21 years as CEO of Jameson Vitamins or Jameson Wellness today, and making the move back in early 2014 to become CEO and president of Fria. That jump is very similar to what I'm now involved in from an advisory role and a board member with Havn, and that is health and wellness. I've always been a big proponent of non-pharmaceutical type of treatments for certain ailments that Mother Nature can assist us with. So the early days of Aphria, where there was just the medical platform before legalization in the recreational world, that was our focus, and how to move the needle and connect with patients, stay connected with patients, and again, medical only. And it was a science driver behind it. How do the certain compounds of CBD and THC interact in levels, indica, sativa, and how that morphed into providing some sort of treatment with anecdotal evidence at the time, I may add, to patients. And so, yeah, that evolution was easy from Jameson to Aphria, and very similar in terms of mental health, mental wellness, and that's what the Havn vision is and its journey.
Yeah, I see. Vic, before you left Afria, you mentioned that the role had really taken a toll on you, and on a personal level, it had been a very taxing time with Afria and the whole lead up in the cannabis market. I'm wondering how you're going to deal with that now with Haven, and sort of how do you see your role with this brand new, exciting industry of psychedelics?
Oh, big difference. In simple words, no more heavy lifting for me. Stress levels, sleep deprivation, 11 p.m. phone calls, traveling the globe to expand the footprint of Aphria beyond the Canadian borders. 5 years at Aphria at the helm felt like 10 years. My gas tank was empty, and it was a hell of a journey. I'm quite proud of all the accomplishments myself and my team have made during that period of time. But it was time. I can't understand how certain CEOs can stay in that job, given the hectic pace, speed of lightning, as we called it, at CEO roles. It's very demanding. It's all consuming. You put aside all of your other family type of priorities because business took over, and it was all consuming. So no, that transition to what I thought was going to be a life of retirement has turned out to be a life of I call it angel investing, advisory roles, mentoring, providing strategic advice, and that's how Havn came about. An opportunity that again was speaking to health and wellness, whether it is the vision of true research of standardized compounds, which is Havn Labs, and then Havn Retail, which is now taking some of that science, evidence-based, I may add, science, into the world of nutraceuticals and how certain compounds can be interactive and bringing a brand to market one day.
I see. Vic, as an investor, what has been your evaluation so far of the psychedelics investment arena, and sort of how do you see this whole new market coming up?
Well, I'm a bit of a novice when it comes to the actual science behind the psychoactivity of certain plant-based, fungi-based compounds. I'm learning more as I get deeper and deeper involved as a board member and advisor role. But in a broader sense, the world of mental health, mental wellness, expands far beyond just PTSD of the veterans. It captures a lot of patients that are in need, and they're self-microdosing today. And so when I stay in that world of, again, 21 years at Jameson, that how to improve the quality and life of consumers or Canadians, that was part of what the draw was for me to get to Havn and accept the role that they have offered me. It's something that we really need to have a better understanding of the standardization, the efficacy, the safety, so researchers, both internal and external, can take it to the next level. And why is that important? Well, it's important for the patient. Microdosing, just like cannabis way back in the early days when it became medically legal, what is the right blend of THC and CBD? What is the indica versus sativa roles in somebody's life, depending of what conditions that they're trying to treat, sleep deprivation, et cetera. And so this is exactly what the Havn research labs are walking forward with, how to extract and identify those compounds with science, evidence-based, or at least evidence thinking, and bring it forward to the medical community. And that excites me.
Yeah, of course. When it comes to the role that Havn is hoping to play in the market, I'm curious about sort of the way you're looking at it in terms of raising capital and maintaining that momentum moving forward. This industry's, at least the companies that are looking to develop novel drugs, this is a very capital intensive sector. Uh, what is sort of the benefits that the company has in your eyes, and sort of the ways that you feel like other investors might start to pay attention to Havn?
Yeah. So the founders and the earlier investors are very committed to the journey of Havn. So they've invested fair sums of funding to get us to where we are today. The going public starting on this past Monday, HAVN ticker symbol, has proven that there are other individuals out there, that retail mostly, that are really excited about this opportunity. They see this as 2014 when cannabis became legal medically, and they didn't jump on board in the early days. This will evolve. But to your question, and this is a lesson well learned by many CEOs in the cannabis space, there has to be a nice balance of capital intensity. You can't be too asset heavy, and you can't be too asset light. So we have now taken the approach on the South Campus of UBC and building out the facility that they've served up to us and the researchers. That's where we're going to invest our early monies, and have been. On the same side of the Havn retail is, how do we now build, how do we formulate compounds that can be interactive with efficacy and safety, and bring those to market under Havn retail. So when you look at the environment today and the difficulty in raising money for licensed producers in the cannabis space, it isn't like during my tenure where we had, after going public, I think we had 7 raises, all up raises, I may add, but it was a frenzy, and it was the ride of rides, and a lot of people wanted to jump on board. Today, in that space, as you well know, Brian, it's not like that. It's the convertibles, it's the very expensive debt that they're looking at, and that's not healthy for the balance sheet. So at Havn, what we've done ourselves is making sure that all of the investors to date, and any other conditions or privileges that come with the early equity raises, whether they're warrants or options, there is forced conversions that will provide us perhaps the next seed monies necessary to build out, again, the further build out of the South Campus on UBC to other opportunities, I may add. So we're not looking at the next raise, but we are well situated from a funding perspective internally for the time being.
I see. And now, Vic, as a last thing, this industry is starting to get a lot of hype about the potential entry from bigger players in the pharmaceutical industry. You know, your time in cannabis was full of rumors and potential deals and actual deals that took place of big cap players coming in and taking a look. How are you envisioning that? How are you seeing the evolution of that conversation? You mentioned the concept of people not wanting to be left behind this time around with the same way that maybe they didn't invest in cannabis, now with psychedelics. Are you seeing that sort of, that's how the market will evolve? And do you believe that some bigger cap pharma companies will come in?
Brian, excellent question, and you're bang on. So again, let me start with the cannabis story first, and then I'll move into the psycho uh, activity of what Havn is moving forward on. So in the early days when it was medical only before rec, yes, there were several large international giants in the pharma space that were in dialogue with us. Um, and there was a lot of excitement from the consumer side of those pharma companies, not necessarily the true pharma, the ones with APIs, et cetera. When it got to the decision making, it was very apparent to me that these conversations weren't going to go much further. When you're talking about something that was plant-based, like a cannabis plant, that cannot be patented per se, and I say that because we've done a lot of research on that over the years. Pharma companies want their own protection. If they're going to invest the time, energy, and funding to move the needle on a compound, whether it's THC, CBD, et cetera, CBN, CBG, you name it, they'll want some guarantees of revenue protection, et cetera. And standardization, by that I mean they replicate the same API in a lab, in a facility, time and time again. Mother Nature doesn't work that way. One orange from one tree today is a different orange tomorrow. It's a fact. So from a cannabis perspective, and there are a number of pharmaceutical companies that have toyed with this idea, but it all came down to, is it safe? Is it efficacious? Can it be standardized? And can we get some sort of patent protection on it? So now let's move over to what Havn is doing in the whole world of plants and fungi when it talks about some of these novel compounds, once properly standardized, extracted, and how do they integrate with either standalone or commingled with other novel compounds and bring it to market on the typical food, drug, mass shelves. I think they're looking at it, but like early days of cannabis, it's all in the consumer side. It's not on the true pharma side. And I'm not going to mention pharmaceutical names, but all of the biggies have had a chance to look at this. And I think their evaluation is going to be very similar to what the cannabis story was. At the end, if the consumer products division wants it, let them run with it. But it's not going to be something that we're going to, again, through an API and get a DIN number, et cetera. This is more inclined to getting an NHP, natural health products number, and bringing it forward under that health and wellness as opposed to true pharmaceutical medicine.
I see. It's something very interesting to follow up for sure. Vic, thank you so much for your time again today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Brian, my pleasure.
For the Investing News Network, I'm Brian McGovern. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for way more videos. We'll see you next time.